The Carventhian Armada, pride of the Galactic Confederation's 7th Exploratory Wing, hung in Earth's orbit like a collection of very expensive, very frozen paperweights. Inside the flagship Relentless Prosperity, Admiral Crix Nathol was discovering that confidence and competence were not, in fact, interchangeable qualities. "Temperature readings cannot be correct," he bellowed, his 3 eye stalks quivering with what observers might charitably call denial. -20. -20. What kind of barbaric planet operates at negative temperatures? His second-in-command, Lieutenant Veshtoren, stood nearby, wearing the expression of someone who'd seen this disaster coming from approximately 3 star systems away. "Sir, the readings are consistent across all—" "Consistent! They're consistently wrong! Recalibrate the sensors, all of them, twice!" Veshtoren did not recalibrate the sensors. The sensors were fine. The sensors had always been fine. What was not fine was the fact that they'd invaded a planet in December without checking what December actually meant. But let's rewind a bit, because every cosmic catastrophe needs a proper beginning, and this one started, as most bureaucratic nightmares do, with paperwork. 6 months earlier, in the climate-controlled comfort of Confederation Central on Proxima Administrative Hub 4, a junior filing clerk named Plimgorth was having what he would later describe as a bit of a day. He'd been assigned to process exploration reports for 73 newly discovered planetary systems, and he was exactly 3 hours away from his scheduled break when he encountered Form 27B6, Planetary Climate Assessment for Sol 3, colloquially known as Earth. The form was incomplete, spectacularly incomplete. Someone had scanned the planet during July, noted that the northern hemisphere was quite pleasant, and extrapolated this data to mean the entire planet was quite pleasant, all the time. Plimgorth stared at the form. He stared at his break schedule. He stared back at the form. Then, in a moment that would echo through military history as the stupidest decision ever made by someone who just wanted lunch, he checked the box marked "Stable Temperate Climate, no seasonal variation," and moved on. The form passed through 17 different departments. Not one of them questioned it. Not because they were incompetent, mind you. They were simply operating under the ancient bureaucratic principle that if something has already been approved by 16 other people, it's probably someone else's problem. Admiral Krixnatol received his invasion orders on a Thursday. He was thrilled. Finally, after years of commanding supply runs and ceremonial parades, he was getting a real assignment. Conquer a primitive planet, establish Confederation dominance, justify the frankly obscene military budget that accountants kept questioning. "Earth," he mused, reading the brief. "Stable climate, primitive technology, no unified planetary defense. This'll be easier than stealing nutrition paste from a hatchling." His tactical officer, Commander Irolkoth, peered at the data. "Sir, shouldn't we conduct more thorough reconnaissance? This report seems rather sparse." "Sparse? It's efficient. That's the problem with your generation. Always overthinking. The planet's temperate. They've barely discovered space travel, and according to this, they spend most of their time arguing with each other. We'll be in and out before lunch. But, sir, what about dismissed? We launch in 3 weeks. Prepare the fleet for tropical operations." "Tropical operations, sir?" "Yes, tropical. The report says pleasant temperatures. Pack the climate-appropriate uniforms, the ones with short sleeves. Maybe some of those recreational cooling devices." Irelkoth did not pack cooling devices. He packed standard military gear and a profound sense of impending doom. He'd learned long ago that admirals who'd earned their rank through political connections rather than actual combat experience tended to have a very loose relationship with reality. The Carventhian Armada consisted of 47 ships, housing approximately 12,000 personnel, all of whom had been assured this was a routine subjugation mission. The vessels were magnificent examples of military engineering. Sleek, powerful, equipped with weapons that could level mountains and shields that could withstand direct hits from stellar radiation. What they were not equipped with was adequate heating. The Carventhian homeworld of Thex Prime orbited a stable yellow star at precisely the right distance to maintain year-round temperatures between 15 and 30 degrees Celsius. The Carventhians had evolved in this paradise of climatic consistency, developing a sophisticated civilization that had mastered faster-than-light travel, energy manipulation, and philosophical debate, but had somehow never encountered the concept of winter. Why would they? Thex Prime didn't have winter, or summer, or autumn, or spring. Just an endless, pleasant sameness that had made them brilliant engineers and absolutely terrible at preparing for environmental variation. Lieutenant Vesh Toran, who'd actually bothered to read the complete survey data, had tried to warn people. The planet rotates at a 23.5-degree axial tilt, she'd mentioned during the pre-mission briefing. That causes significant seasonal variation in solar radiation distribution. Fascinating, Admiral Crixnathol had replied. And how does that affect our invasion timeline? It means the climate isn't stable, sir. It changes dramatically. If we arrive during their winter period, winter, what in the 17 moons is a winter? That conversation had not gone well. Veshitoran had been assigned extra equipment inventory duty for unnecessary pessimism. The fleet departed on schedule, jumping through hyperspace with all the confidence of people who'd never experienced frostbite. They emerged in Earth's orbit on December 15th, and within 6 hours they realized they'd made a terrible mistake. The first clue was when the external sensors started reporting temperatures that the ship's computer initially flagged as system errors. -5 degrees Celsius at the North Pole? Impossible. -15 in Siberia? The sensors must be broken. -40 in Antarctica? Someone had clearly sabotaged the equipment. Run a full diagnostic, Crixnathol ordered. And someone explained to me how a planet listed as temperate is showing readings that would freeze liquid methane. Sir, Irelkoth ventured carefully, liquid methane freezes at -161 degrees Celsius. These readings, while cold, are not that. I don't care about methane. I care about the fact that this pleasant tropical paradise is apparently trying to kill us. It was at this moment that Ensign Plixmarble, the fleet's youngest and most nervously honest officer, made a discovery. Sir, I've been reviewing the Earth databases we intercepted. They have extensive documentation about something called seasons. Seasons? Yes, sir. Apparently their planet's axial tilt causes the climate to change drastically over the course of their orbital period. They have names for these changes: winter, spring, summer, autumn. We've arrived during winter, in the northern hemisphere, which is when it gets very cold. The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of life support systems that were about to become very relevant. How cold? Crixnathol asked quietly. The average temperature in the regions below us is currently -20 degrees Celsius, sir. Some areas are colder. And our ships are rated for what temperature range? Irelkoth consulted her tablet. Minimum operational temperature, -5 degrees Celsius, sir. Below that, we start experiencing system failures. Below -10, critical systems begin to malfunction. Below -15... Below -15 what? We freeze, sir. Just freeze. Now, you might think that a fleet of advanced alien warships would have some sort of backup plan for cold weather. Emergency heating systems, perhaps. Thermal shielding. Something. And you'd be right to think that. The problem was that those systems had been designed for the cold of space, where there's no atmosphere to conduct heat away. They were meant to prevent heat loss, not to actively generate heat against an external cold atmosphere. Earth's atmosphere, thin as it might be at orbital altitude, was just thick enough to conduct heat away from the ships faster than their systems could compensate. It was like the difference between standing naked in a freezer versus standing naked in a freezer with a fan pointed at you. Technically the same temperature, but one is significantly more uncomfortable. The first system to fail was the water recycling plant on the destroyer Morning's Glory. The failure was discovered when a crew member tried to wash his face and got punched by a stream of ice. What the? The water's solid. Impossible. Water is liquid by definition. Look at it. It's hard. I can hold it. A scientist was summoned. He examined the frozen water with the expression of someone whose entire understanding of chemistry was being personally attacked. This is fascinating. The hydrogen bonds have arranged themselves into a crystalline matrix. It's quite stable. I don't want stable. I want liquid. I want water, normal water. This is normal water, just at a different temperature. Water doesn't have different temperatures. Apparently it does. Within an hour, 17 different ships reported similar problems. The life support chief on the flagship tried to explain the situation to Admiral Krixnathal. "Sir, we're losing heat faster than we can generate it. If we don't take action soon, we're going to have serious problems." Define serious. "Death, sir. Freezing to death. All of us." Krixnathal stared at him. "You're telling me that we've traveled 47 light-years, equipped with enough firepower to conquer an entire planetary system, and we're going to be defeated by weather?" "Not weather, sir. Physics." "I hate physics." An emergency command meeting was called. All senior officers assembled in the conference room, which was already noticeably colder than regulation standards. Admiral Krixnathal stood at the head of the table, his normally imposing presence somewhat diminished by the fact that he was visibly shivering. "Suggestions," he demanded. "I want practical suggestions for how we survive this absurd situation." Commander Irelkoth spoke first. "We could retreat to a higher orbit, sir. Further from the planet's atmosphere, less heat conduction." "And look like cowards?" "Absolutely not. We could rotate through the ships," suggested the logistics officer Quinthex. "Keep half the fleet powered down, while the other half maintains position. Share resources. And reduce our military presence by 50%. What if they attack?" "Sir," Ensign Plixmarble interjected nervously, "the humans don't actually know we're here yet. Their detection technology is quite primitive. We could what? Ask them for help?" "Excuse me, primitive species we came to conquer, do you have any spare blankets?" "Ridiculous." "Actually, sir," Plixmarble continued, "that's not entirely ridiculous. The humans are quite experienced with cold weather. They've developed extensive technologies for surviving these conditions. If we explained our situation—" "We are the Galactic Confederation," Krixnathal roared. "We do not ask inferior species for assistance. We conquer them. We dominate them. We do not admit that we're being defeated by frozen water." "But, sir—" "No buts. We'll solve this ourselves. Increase power to the heating systems." The engineer in charge of life support, a weathered veteran named Tolvexis, shook his head. "Sir, we're already at maximum output. If we push harder, we risk burning out the reactors." "Then risk it. That's an order." Tolvexis did not argue. "You didn't survive 40 years in the military by arguing with admirals who'd already made up their minds. You simply documented the order, implemented it, and prepared to say, 'I told you so,' at the court-martial. The power increase lasted exactly 47 minutes before the first reactor overloaded. The frigate Distant Thunder went dark, emergency lighting flickering on as the main power systems crashed. Within the hour, 6 more ships reported similar failures. "Stop increasing power," Krixnathal ordered belatedly. "Everyone just stop!" The fleet hung in orbit, cold and getting colder, while the command staff tried to figure out what to do next. Below them, Earth rotated peacefully, completely unaware that several thousand aliens were slowly freezing to death because someone had filed the wrong form. On Earth, specifically at the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, a young radar operator named Jennifer Kowalski was having a thoroughly boring shift. She'd been staring at screens for 6 hours, watching the same satellites pass overhead in their predictable orbits, drinking coffee that had gone cold 3 hours ago, and contemplating whether she'd made the right career choices. Then her screen flickered. Several new objects had appeared in orbit. Large objects. 47 large objects. "Hey, Rodriguez," she called to her supervisor. "You seeing this?" Rodriguez wandered over, coffee in hand. "Seeing what?" "These," she pointed at the screen. "Unidentified objects, in orbit, lots of them." Rodriguez squinted at the screen. Then he set down his coffee very carefully. "Get Commander Patterson, now." Commander Patterson arrived 7 minutes later, took one look at the screen, and said a word that was not typically used in official military communications. He grabbed a phone, dialed a number, and spoke very quickly to someone on the other end. Then he hung up and stared at the screen with the expression of someone who'd just realized their Tuesday had become significantly more complicated. "Are they doing anything?" he asked. "Just sitting there, sir. They arrived 2 hours ago and haven't moved." 2 hours, and nobody noticed. "They appeared during the satellite gap, sir. We only picked them up when Delta 7 swung around." Patterson nodded slowly. "Get me everything we know about these objects. Size, composition, trajectory, everything. And somebody wake up the Secretary of Defense. He's going to want to know about this." The Secretary of Defense, upon being informed that Earth was hosting approximately 50 alien spacecraft, said several words that were definitely not appropriate for official communications. He called the President. The President called the Joint Chiefs. The Joint Chiefs called everyone who had security clearance and a pulse. Within 3 hours, every major government on Earth knew about the Carventhian Armada. Within 4 hours, they'd convened an emergency meeting to decide what to do about it. Within 5 hours, they were arguing so intensely about protocol and jurisdiction that they'd almost forgotten about the actual aliens. Dr. Eleanor Rasmussen, chief scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and one of humanity's foremost experts in theoretical xenobiology, sat in the emergency conference room listening to politicians debate who should be in charge of first contact, and felt her soul slowly leaving her body. "This is clearly a military matter," insisted General Hawthorne. "This is a diplomatic situation," countered Ambassador Williams. "We should consult the UN. The UN couldn't organize a birthday party." "Excuse me!" Dr. Rasmussen stood up. "Shut up!" The room fell silent. 17 of Earth's most powerful people stared at her in shock. "Thank you," she said calmly. "Now, while you've been arguing about organizational charts, has anyone considered actually observing what these ships are doing?" "They're clearly preparing to invade," General Hawthorne declared. "Are they? Because according to the data I've seen, they're not doing anything. They're just sitting there, not moving, not communicating, not attacking, just sitting." "What's your point?" "My point is that they've been there for 5 hours and haven't made a single aggressive move. That's either the world's worst invasion strategy or they're having some kind of problem." "What kind of problem?" Dr. Rasmussen pulled up a thermal imaging scan on the main screen. "That kind of problem. Look at the heat signatures. They're dropping. Consistently. Every hour they're losing thermal energy. At this rate, within 24 hours, those ships are going to be barely warmer than the space around them." Ambassador Williams leaned forward. "Are you saying they're freezing?" "I'm saying something is wrong with their environmental systems. And if they're anything like us biologically, which is a huge assumption, then yes, they're probably very cold and getting colder. So what do? We could try making contact. Before they all die and we have to explain to their next fleet why we let their advanced team freeze to death." Back on the Relentless Prosperity, things had gone from bad to catastrophically worse. The temperature inside the ship had dropped to 8 degrees Celsius, which was cold enough that Carventhians, with their warm-weather biology, were starting to exhibit symptoms of hypothermia. Crew members were sluggish, confused, and making increasingly poor decisions. Lieutenant Vesha Torun, who'd wrapped herself in every piece of fabric she could find, was attempting to coordinate a fleet-wide survival strategy. All ships. Reduce power consumption to essential systems only. Shut down weapons, shields, propulsion. Everything goes to life support. What about our military readiness? Someone asked. We have no military readiness if we're dead. Power down everything non-essential. Admiral Cricksnuthel, wearing what appeared to be 7 uniforms layered on top of each other, had finally accepted that they were in serious trouble. Has anyone responded to our distress signal? What distress signal, sir? The one we sent to Confederation Command. Sir, we haven't sent a distress signal. What? Why not? Because you ordered us not to admit we needed help, sir. Cricksnuthel stared at him. I meant don't ask the humans for help. I didn't mean don't tell our own people we're dying. Ah, that wasn't clear, sir. Send the signal. Now! The signal was sent. It would take approximately 3 weeks to reach Confederation Command, and another 3 weeks for a response. The crew of the Relentless Prosperity had about 2 days before systems started failing critically. It was Ensign Plixmarble who finally suggested the unthinkable. Sir, what if we did contact the humans? Absolutely not. Sir, they live here. They obviously know how to survive these conditions. If we explained our situation, we came here to conquer them. We can't conquer them if we're asking for help. Vestron cleared her throat. Sir, respectfully, we also can't conquer them if we're frozen solid. And I'm fairly certain that dying of hypothermia would be significantly more embarrassing than admitting we underestimated their planet's climate. Cricksnuthel sat in his command chair, shivering despite his 7 layers of uniform, and faced the most humiliating moment of his military career. Fine, he whispered. Contact the humans. Tell them we request assistance. What do we offer in exchange, sir? What do they want? Not to be conquered. Fine, we won't conquer them. Just someone get us some heat before I freeze to death. The message was sent in 17 different formats, translated by the ship's computer into what it hoped was intelligible English. It read, To the inhabitants of Earth, we are the Carventhian Armada of the Galactic Confederation. We are experiencing technical difficulties. We request immediate assistance. We promise not to conquer you if you help us not die. Sincerely, very cold aliens who made a huge mistake. The message was received at NORAD at 0347 hours. Commander Patterson read it 3 times, showed it to Dr. Rasmussen, and then they both started laughing. Not polite chuckling, full gasping, tears streaming down faces laughing. They came to invade us, Patterson wheezed, and they're being defeated by December. Dr. Rasmussen wiped her eyes. This is the most human thing I've ever heard. How is this human? They're aliens. No, I mean this is exactly what would happen if we tried to invade a planet without checking the weather first. Remember the Spanish Armada? Napoleon in Russia? This is just the cosmic version of that. So what do? We help them. Obviously, we can't let them freeze to death. Why not? Because if they die, the next fleet that comes looking for them is going to be significantly less friendly. But if we rescue them, we establish diplomatic relations, demonstrate our competence, and we get to hold this over their heads for eternity. Patterson grinned. I like the way you think. Let me call the President. The President of the United States, upon being informed that Earth's first contact with alien life involved rescuing them from cold weather, laughed so hard he had to sit down. Then he called the International Space Station and asked if they could help coordinate a rescue mission. Commander Pavel Volkov, the ISS's current mission commander and a native of Siberia who'd survived winters that would make lesser humans weep, took one look at the situation and said in heavily accented English, "Is simple. We go up, we bring blankets, we bring hot soup, problem solved." "It's not that simple," someone started. "Is exactly that simple. They are cold. We have warm things. We give them warm things. Is rescue, not rocket science." "Well, is rocket science, but you know what I mean." And within 6 hours, an international rescue mission was organized. The Chinese contributed thermal blankets. The Russians provided their most advanced space heaters. The Americans offered logistical support and protein bars. The Canadians, with the smugness of people who lived through -40 winters regularly, offered to send up some nice parkas and advice on layering. The rescue shuttle launched at 1400 hours, carrying Commander Volkov, Dr. Rasmussen, an American astronaut named Mike Chen, and approximately 2 tons of heating equipment, thermal blankets, hot soup, and something called emergency survival kits that mostly consisted of chocolate and hand warmers. As they approached the Carventhian flagship, Volkov radioed ahead. "Attention, cold aliens. This is rescue mission from Earth. We are coming to help. Please do not shoot us. We bring warm things." The response came back immediately. "Please hurry, we're at 4 degrees. That's almost freezing." Volkov frowned. 4 degrees is not almost freezing. 4 degrees is quite comfortable. It's 4 degrees Celsius. That's insane. "Ah," Volkov said, understanding dawning. "You are from warm planet. This is going to be very embarrassing for you." Deal. The docking procedure took 17 minutes, during which the Carventhian crew watched with a mixture of hope and humiliation as the tiny human shuttle approached their massive warship. When the airlock finally opened, Admiral Krixnathal, wearing all 7 uniforms plus several decorative banners he'd torn from the walls, stood waiting. Commander Volkov stepped through, took one look at the shivering aliens, and started distributing thermal blankets with the efficiency of someone who'd done cold weather survival training approximately 1 million times. "Here, wrap this around you. You, over there, yes you, take this heater. No, don't eat it, it makes heat. Point the warm end at yourself." Dr. Rasmussen surveyed the scene with scientific fascination and barely suppressed amusement. "You're Carventhians?" "Yes," Krixnathal managed through chattering teeth, "from Thex Prime." "And Thex Prime's average temperature?" "To 22 degrees Celsius." "All year?" "Yes." "Oh, you poor unprepared fools. Mike, break out the soup." Mike Chen began distributing containers of hot soup, which the aliens examined with deep suspicion. "What is this?" "Food. Warm food. It'll help you regulate your body temperature." "It's steaming." "That means it's hot." "That's the point." Lieutenant Vesh Tarun, wrapped in 3 thermal blankets and looking like a very confused burrito, accepted a container of soup and took a cautious sip. Her eyes widened. This is wonderful." "What is it?" "Chicken noodle soup. It's what humans eat when we're sick or cold, or sad or happy. We eat a lot of soup." Over the next few hours, the rescue team worked their way through the fleet, distributing supplies and explaining basic cold weather survival concepts to aliens who'd literally never encountered them before. Volkov gave an impromptu lecture on layering. Dr. Rasmussen explained the concept of seasons using diagrams that made the Carventhians feel profoundly stupid. Mike Chen showed them how to make hot cocoa, which caused a minor diplomatic incident when 17 aliens tried to fight over the last packet. On the flagship's bridge, Admiral Krixnathal sat wrapped in blankets, drinking his 3rd cup of hot chocolate and confronting the reality of his situation. "We came here to conquer you," he said quietly to Dr. Rasmussen. "We know," she replied. "We intercepted your planning communications. Your encryption is terrible, by the way. And you're helping us anyway? Of course. You're not our enemy. You're just idiots. There's a difference." "That's surprisingly generous." "Oh, don't worry. We're going to tell everyone about this. Every species in the galaxy is going to hear about how the mighty Carventhian armada was defeated by winter. This is going into history books." Krixnathal groaned. "Can't you just let us freeze quietly?" "Absolutely not. This is too funny. Besides, you owe us now. Big time." "What do you want?" "Technology sharing, cultural exchange, a promise that the Confederation will never try to invade Earth again, and yearly deliveries of those energy crystals you use to power your ships. Those look useful." That's extortion. No, that's rescue fees. We're saving your lives. The least you can do is share some technology and stop trying to conquer us." Crixnathel considered arguing. Then he took another sip of hot chocolate, felt warmth returning to his extremities, and decided that perhaps humans were more formidable than he'd thought. "Agreed. But can we keep this quiet, please?" "Oh, absolutely not. Did I mention we've been broadcasting this entire conversation to every news network on the planet? You're currently being watched by approximately 3 billion people." 3 billion? You're very popular. There's already a meme about you. Look, Dr. Rasmussen showed him her phone, which displayed an image of him wearing 7 uniforms with the caption, "Aliens, we will conquer Earth. Earth in December. LOL, no." Crixnathel stared at the screen, then at Dr. Rasmussen, then back at the screen. "What's a meme? Oh, you poor thing. You have so much to learn about humans." The rescue operation took 3 days to complete. By the end, every Carventhian ship had been supplied with proper heating equipment, thermal clothing, and enough hot soup to last until they could safely depart. The fleet's engineers worked alongside human technicians to retrofit their environmental systems, learning valuable lessons about designing for temperature variation. Lieutenant Veshtarun spent most of that time talking with Commander Volkov about his experiences in Siberia. "You choose to live in places that cold. Is where I am from, is normal, but it's -40 in winter. Yes, is good weather for thinking, very quiet. Nobody bothers you when is -40. That's because everyone else has frozen to death. No, we have proper clothing, proper heating, proper vodka is fine." "Vodka?" "Special drink. Makes you feel warm, or makes you not care that you're cold. Same result." Veshatarun made a note to request a full briefing on human cold weather survival techniques. Clearly, they'd missed something significant in their initial assessment. On the 4th day, when all ships were operational and warming to temperatures the Carventhians considered survivable, Admiral Crixnathel called a fleet-wide assembly. Every crew member watched as he stood on the bridge, still wrapped in one of the human blankets, because it was remarkably comfortable. "Crew of the Carventhian Armada," he began. "We came to Earth with the intention of conquest. We have instead discovered something far more valuable: humility. We have learned that technological advancement does not equal wisdom, that firepower does not equal preparedness, and that pride, as it turns out, provides absolutely zero thermal insulation." A few nervous laughs rippled through the assembly. "We have also learned," he continued, "that humanity, while primitive in many ways, is sophisticated in others. They have mastered survival in conditions we cannot imagine. They have developed technologies for problems we didn't know existed, and they have shown us mercy when they could have left us to freeze." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Therefore, effective immediately, we are aborting the invasion. Instead, we will be establishing diplomatic relations with Earth. We will be sharing technology, culture, and knowledge. And we will be returning to Thex Prime to file the longest complaint in Confederation history about whoever approved our mission briefing without proper environmental assessment." The crew erupted in cheers, partially because they weren't going to die, but mostly because nobody had actually wanted to invade Earth in the first place. They'd just been following orders. "Additionally," Crixnathel added, "I'm officially recommending that Earth be classified as a Category 7 hazard world under Confederation protocols, not because of their military capability, but because their planet is actively hostile to most known forms of life. Any future visitors should bring extensive cold weather gear and chocolate. Definitely bring chocolate." Down on Earth, Dr. Rasmussen watched the departing fleet through her telescope and smiled. "You know," she said to Commander Patterson, "we probably just made first contact in the most ridiculous way possible. Could have been worse. At least they didn't try to fight us." True, although watching them try to fight us while shivering uncontrollably would have been hilarious. "You're terrible." "I'm realistic. Besides, this worked out well. We got technology, allies, and the greatest story in human history. What are we going to tell the Confederation when they show up asking questions? The truth, that we saved their fleet from freezing to death, asked for nothing but friendship in return, and oh, by the way, if you ever think about invading Earth, maybe check the weather first. Patterson laughed. You think they'll listen? Probably not. But next time, at least we'll be ready, and we'll have such a good story to tell them about what happened to the last fleet that showed up in winter. What if they come in summer? Then we'll introduce them to hurricanes, or tornadoes, or heat waves, or humidity. Earth has lots of fun surprises for unsuspecting aliens. We're just sitting here waiting to accidentally defeat alien invasions with weather, aren't we? Pretty much, although I prefer to think of it as Earth's natural defense system. Why build weapons when the planet itself is already hostile to most life forms? We're lucky we evolved here. Lucky? We fought for every single degree of survival. We invented clothing, fire, shelter, agriculture, air conditioning, and 1,000 other technologies just to not die from our own planet's mood swings. We're not lucky. We're competent. And yet, we still complain about the weather constantly. Well, obviously, just because we can survive it doesn't mean we enjoy it. We're human, not masochists. 3 weeks later, the Carventhian Armada's distress signal reached Confederation Command. The response fleet was assembled immediately, consisting of 60 warships, full military support, and a rescue team prepared for every possible disaster scenario. They arrived in Earth's orbit expecting to find debris, destruction, and possibly evidence of a fierce battle. Instead, they found Admiral Krixnathel's fleet in perfect formation, every ship operational, every crew member healthy, and everyone wearing what appeared to be colorful, human-made winter clothing. The rescue fleet commander, Admiral Thonvaris, stared at the scene in confusion. Relentless prosperity, this is the rescue fleet. What is your status? You sent a distress signal indicating critical systems failure. Ah, yes, Krixnathel replied. That was 3 weeks ago. We've been rescued since then. Rescued? By whom? The humans, the species we came here to conquer. They rescued you? Long story. Would you like to come aboard? The humans left us some excellent soup. Admiral Thonvaris boarded the flagship with his security team, weapons ready, expecting a trap. What he found was Krixnathel wearing a brightly colored knitted sweater, drinking hot cocoa, and reading what appeared to be a human book titled Winter Survival for Idiots. What in the name of the 7 stars happened here? Thonvaris demanded. Krixnathel set down his book carefully. We invaded a planet without checking what season it was. Turns out planets with axial tilt have these things called seasons, where the temperature changes dramatically. Who knew? Everyone knows that. It's basic planetary science. Well, apparently not everyone, because our mission briefing said the planet was temperate and stable. Nobody mentioned the part where half the planet becomes a frozen hellscape for several months out of the year. Thonvaris looked around the bridge. Every console had human-manufactured heating units attached. Every crew member was wearing thermal clothing with Earth flags and logos. In the corner, someone had set up what appeared to be a small shrine to hot soup. So the humans, Thonvaris said slowly, the species you came to conquer, rescued you. Enthusiastically. They thought the whole situation was hilarious. They've made something called memes about us. Apparently we're famous across their entire planetary network. Look, Krixnathel pulled up the human internet on his display. The screen filled with images. Aliens defeated by winter. Space invaders forgot their jackets. When you try to conquer Earth, but it's December. Thousands upon thousands of jokes, cartoons, and commentaries, all mocking the Carventhian Armada's spectacular failure to check the weather forecast. Thonvaris stared at the screen in horror. This is a disaster. The Confederation's reputation will be ruined. Actually, Lieutenant Veshitoran interjected, it could have been much worse. The humans could have attacked us while we were vulnerable. They could have demanded our surrender. They could have captured our ships and technology. Instead, they helped us, asked for reasonable diplomatic concessions, and made fun of us on their internet. Honestly, it's one of the better first contact scenarios. Better? We're a laughingstock. Yes, but we're an alive laughingstock with new allies. I'll take it. Thonveris sat down heavily. I need to report this to command. They're not going to believe it. Tell them to send someone from the diplomatic corps, Crixnathol suggested. The humans are actually quite sophisticated. They've been spacefaring for nearly a century. They have complex social structures, and they're surprisingly good at negotiation. Plus, they have this beverage called coffee that I'm fairly certain is mildly addictive and definitely worth acquiring. You've been here 3 weeks and you're already addicted to their stimulants. You say that like it's a bad thing. Wait until you try the chocolate. The report that reached Confederation Command was read with increasing disbelief. The High Council convened an emergency session to discuss the implications. Never in the history of Confederation exploration had a military fleet been defeated by climate. Councillor Thex Moron, head of the Exploration Committee, read the report for the 17th time. They're telling us that 47 warships, crewed by 12,000 trained personnel, were incapacitated by cold weather. That appears to be the situation, yes, confirmed the aide. And the humans, who had every opportunity to destroy the fleet, instead rescued them. Correct. And now the entire human population is aware of our existence, our military capabilities, and our spectacular incompetence. They've made approximately 17 million jokes about it in the last 3 weeks, yes. Thexmoron buried his face in his hands. Who approved the mission briefing? We're still investigating. The trail leads back to Form 27B6, filed by a clerk named Plimgorth. Find Plimgorth. I want to have a very long conversation about the importance of thorough planetary assessment. Plimgorth, when located, was having lunch. He was escorted to Confederation Command with the expression of someone who just realized that his desire to take an early break 6 months ago had resulted in galactic consequences. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Thexmoron roared. "I filed a form," Plimgorth ventured weakly. "You filed a form incorrectly. You marked Earth as climatically stable when it has dramatic seasonal variation. 47 ships nearly froze to death because you wanted to go to lunch." "In my defense," Plimgorth said quietly, 17 other departments approved that form after me." Thexmoron paused. What? The form went through 17 approval stages. Quality control, environmental assessment, military planning, strategic operations. Not one of them caught the error. So yes, I made a mistake, but everyone else made the same mistake 17 more times. The council chamber fell silent as this reality sank in. "So what you're telling me," Councillor Vexis Thoris said slowly, "is that our entire bureaucratic system failed spectacularly." "That's exactly what I'm saying, and honestly, if one incorrectly filed form can cause an entire military operation to nearly die from cold weather, maybe the problem isn't me. Maybe the problem is that we've built a system where nobody actually checks anything because they assume someone else already did." He had a point, a frustratingly valid point. "Fine," Thexmoron said tiredly. "You're not fired. But you are going to personally review every single planetary assessment form for the next 5 years, by yourself. No breaks until each one is perfect." "That seems fair," Plimgorth agreed. "And someone find out why we don't have a basic protocol for checking seasonal climate variation before sending military fleets." It turned out they did have such a protocol. It was in the manual, page 4612. Nobody had read that far. A new regulation was immediately issued. All planetary invasion plans must include a full year of climate observation before deployment. Additionally, all military vessels were to be equipped with heating systems capable of handling temperatures down to -50 degrees Celsius. The regulation was named the Carventhian Protocol, which nobody found funny except the humans, who found it hilarious. Back on Earth, Dr. Rasmussen was finishing her official report on first contact. She typed the final paragraph. In conclusion, humanity's first encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence occurred not through planned diplomatic channels, but through an accidental demonstration of Earth's environmental hostility. The Carventhian Armada's failure to properly assess seasonal climate variation resulted in a crisis that required immediate humanitarian intervention. This event has established several important precedents. First, that humanity is willing and able to provide assistance even to those who initially approached with hostile intent. Second, that Earth's environmental conditions represent a significant defensive advantage against species from climatically stable worlds. Third, that proper research and preparation are essential for any interstellar endeavor. And fourth, that the universe is significantly more absurd than previously hypothesized. She submitted the report and leaned back in her chair. Outside her window, snow was falling. Beautiful, deadly, perfectly normal snow that had defeated an alien armada without a single shot fired. Her phone buzzed. A message from Admiral Krixnathal. "Dr. Rasmussen, quick question. What are these white frozen particles falling from the sky? Should we be concerned?" She replied, "That's snow. It's frozen water precipitation. Completely normal. It happens in winter. You should probably go inside. Water falls from the sky as ice. Yes, sometimes as liquid too. We call that rain. Your planet is insane. You're just figuring this out now. I'm beginning to understand why humans are so resilient. You've been fighting your own planet for survival since you evolved. Pretty much. Makes us good at improvising. And good at surviving things that would kill most other species. That too. Enjoy the snow. It's pretty if you're not trying to invade anyone." 3 months later, the Confederation formally established diplomatic relations with Earth. The ceremony was held at the United Nations, broadcast across both planets, and included several speeches about cooperation, peace, and mutual understanding. It also included a moment of silence for the brave soldiers who nearly froze to death because someone didn't read the manual, which the humans insisted on including, and which made half the Carventhian delegation visibly uncomfortable. Admiral Krixnathal, now serving as the Confederation's ambassador to Earth, gave a speech that would be remembered for generations. "When we arrived at Earth, we believed ourselves to be superior. We had faster ships, more powerful weapons, and thousands of years of spacefaring experience. We looked at humanity and saw a primitive species barely beginning to explore their own solar system. We were wrong. Not about your technology, which is primitive compared to ours, but about what actually matters. You understood your own world. You had adapted to conditions we couldn't imagine. You had developed solutions to problems we didn't know existed. And when you found us helpless, you helped us anyway. That is not primitive. That is advanced. That is the mark of a truly sophisticated civilization. We came to conquer you, and you defeated us with kindness. And winter. Mostly winter, but also kindness." The audience laughed. Krixnathal smiled, a gesture he'd learned from humans and found surprisingly useful. "So today," he continued, "we formally apologize for our attempt at invasion. We formally thank you for our rescue. And we formally invite Earth to join the Galactic Confederation as a full member species, not because of your military power, not because of your technology, but because anyone who can survive this planet clearly has something valuable to teach the rest of us." The applause was thunderous. Earth's representative, Ambassador Williams, approached the podium with barely concealed amusement. "On behalf of humanity," she said, "we accept your apology, your thanks, and your invitation. We look forward to sharing our knowledge with the Confederation, including our extensive expertise in cold weather survival, seasonal climate adaptation, and the proper way to make hot chocolate. We also look forward to hearing about your next visitors, because I guarantee someone else is going to show up unprepared, and we're building quite the collection of aliens versus Earth weather stories." "You think more will come?" Krixnathal asked. "Oh, absolutely. Earth is valuable. Good location, decent resources, interesting biology. Someone else will eventually decide to invade us, and they'll probably make the same mistake you did. Maybe they'll come in July and discover heat, or in April and discover tornadoes, or in September and discover hurricanes. Earth has so many ways to surprise unprepared aliens. That's terrifying. That's home. Williams grinned. We've spent millions of years adapting to a planet that actively tries to kill us every season. You think we're worried about alien invasions? We have weather, we have earthquakes, we have volcanoes, we have mosquitoes. Aliens are just Tuesday. Crixnathel laughed, a sound he'd picked up from humans and found strangely cathartic. I'm beginning to think the universe should be more worried about humanity than humanity should be worried about the universe. Now you're getting it. The following year, Earth's admission to the Galactic Confederation was formalized. Humanity gained access to faster-than-light travel, advanced medicine, and a universe full of new friends, trading partners, and people to share soup recipes with. The Confederation gained access to Earth's environmental adaptation technologies, cultural diversity, and a very entertaining cautionary tale about the importance of proper mission planning. The story of the Carventhian Armada became legendary across the galaxy. It was taught in military academies as an example of what not to do. It was referenced in diplomatic negotiations as proof that technological superiority didn't guarantee success. It was joked about in bars, commemorated in songs, and immortalized in a surprisingly popular theatrical production titled Frozen, Not Just the Water. Admiral Crixnathel, despite the embarrassment, became something of a celebrity. He wrote a book about his experiences called What I Learned About Humility, Humans, and Hot Soup. It became a bestseller on 17 different worlds. He gave lectures about the importance of thorough preparation. He advocated for better environmental training in military education. And he never, ever deployed to another planet without checking the climate data first. Lieutenant Veshitoran transferred to the Confederation's newly created Department of Planetary Environmental Assessment, where she ensured that no other fleet would suffer the same fate. Her first major initiative was creating a comprehensive database of every known planetary climate pattern, complete with recommendations for appropriate equipment, clothing, and emergency supplies. The database was named Don't Be Like Crixnathel, a complete guide to not freezing to death on other planets. Ensign Plixmarble became Earth's most enthusiastic advocate within the Confederation. He learned 17 Earth languages, earned a doctorate in human cultural studies, and eventually married a human woman from Norway who thought his complete inability to handle cold weather was adorable. They lived in a temperature-controlled apartment in Oslo, where he spent his days studying human resilience and his nights wrapped in blankets, wondering how his wife could possibly think -15 degrees was nice weather. Under Commander Pavel Volkov received the Confederation Medal of Exceptional Humanitarian Service, which he accepted with typical Russian stoicism. When asked what he'd do with the prize money, he replied, "Buy better vodka and maybe new blankets. Can never have too many blankets." He became a regular consultant for the Confederation on cold weather operations and insisted on being paid in chocolate. Dr. Eleanor Rasmussen was appointed as Earth's chief science liaison to the Confederation. She spent half her time on diplomatic stations explaining human biology, psychology, and why, yes, we really do have that many words for precipitation. The other half she spent on Earth, writing papers about xenobiology and trying to explain to her fellow humans that most aliens were actually quite intelligent and sophisticated. They'd just never encountered weather before and needed some time to adjust. Plim Gorth, the clerk whose mistake had started everything, became an unlikely hero. After completing his 5-year sentence of reviewing forms, he was promoted to Director of Quality Control, where he implemented sweeping reforms to the Confederation's bureaucratic systems. His motto became, "Assume nothing, check everything, and always know what season it is. He also developed a severe anxiety disorder around paperwork, but therapy helped. The Carventhian homeworld of Thex Prime became a popular tourist destination for humans, who found the stable 22-degree climate absolutely delightful after dealing with Earth's mood swings. The Carventhians, in turn, developed a fascination with Earth tourism, specifically something called ski resorts, where humans apparently paid money to go to cold places for fun. They never understood it, but they respected humanity's dedication to making entertainment out of suffering. The Confederation's first joint military exercise with Earth was scheduled for the following winter. The Carventhian delegation politely declined to participate. The Thrallaxians, from a desert world where temperatures ranged from 30 to 50 degrees Celsius, also declined. The Vexmorians, whose homeworld orbited so close to their sun that they needed cooling suits to survive, took one look at the projected temperatures and asked if humanity was insane. The exercise proceeded with only 3 alien species participating. The Krelvor, whose ice moon colonies had prepared them well, the Morthen, who were silicon-based and didn't really notice temperature, and the Yith-Koral, who were genuinely curious about this winter thing everyone kept talking about. The Yith-Koral lasted 6 hours before requesting emergency evacuation. The Krelvor finished the exercise and demanded to know why Earth's winter was considered difficult when their homeworld averaged -90 Celsius. The Morthen asked if anyone else wanted to grab dinner. Earth's military took extensive notes on which species could handle winter operations and which species should probably be assigned to summer missions. The Confederation took extensive notes on why they should maybe let humans handle cold weather operations entirely. Everyone agreed that this kind of practical cooperation was exactly what the Alliance needed. 5 years after first contact, the annual Remember the Freezing Memorial Ceremony was held on Earth, attended by representatives from 40 different Confederation species. It had started as a solemn commemoration, but had gradually evolved into something more like a festival. There were ice sculptures, hot chocolate stands, lectures on winter survival, a theater performance reenacting the rescue mission, with human children playing the aliens and making exaggerated shivering motions that somehow managed to be both disrespectful and endearing. Admiral Crixnathal attended every year. The first year, he'd been mortified. By the 5th year, he'd learned to laugh at himself. He stood in the Memorial Plaza, surrounded by snow, watching humans and aliens mingle peacefully, and felt something like contentment. "Still embarrassed?" Dr. Rasmussen asked, appearing beside him with 2 cups of hot cocoa. "Every single day," he admitted, accepting the cup. "But less than before. You were right, you know, about this being better than the alternative. Dying of hypothermia? Conquering you. If we'd succeeded, we'd have made enemies. We'd have destroyed something unique. Instead, we failed spectacularly and gained allies. Strange how the universe works." "Not that strange. Failure teaches better than success. And embarrassment builds character. Is that a human saying? It is now." They stood in comfortable silence, watching snow fall on a crowd of species that had no business coexisting, but somehow did anyway. "Dr. Rasmussen," Crixnathal said eventually, "do you think Earth will ever try to explore the galaxy? Not just visiting, but actual colonization?" "Probably." "Why?" "Because I think the galaxy should be warned." "Ja, warned about what?" "About what happens when a species that evolved to survive Earth starts spreading to other planets. You're adaptable, resilient, and completely insane. You make entertainment out of suffering. You turn disasters into festivals. You defeated an invasion fleet with weather and then made friends with the invaders. The galaxy isn't ready for humanity." Dr. Rasmussen smiled. "Good. 10 years after first contact, Earth launched its first colony ship to a Confederation world designated as challenging by most species standards. The planet had extreme seasonal variation, unpredictable weather patterns, and an ecosystem that most xenobiologists described as actively hostile. The Confederation had tried settling it 3 times. All 3 attempts had failed. The humans called it New Minnesota and immediately started building. Within 5 years, the colony was not just surviving but thriving. They'd established agriculture, developed new cold weather technologies, and created a tourism industry based around something they called authentic wilderness experiences. Other Confederation species visited New Minnesota with a mixture of awe and horror. How could humans live here? How could they be happy here? How could they possibly consider this frozen nightmare desirable? The answer was simple. They were human. They'd evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every season. They'd adapted to conditions that would destroy most other species. They'd learned to not just survive hostile environments, but to love them, to find beauty in hardship, to make home out of adversity. The galaxy learned something important from Earth, that what looked like weakness could be strength, that struggling to survive made you stronger, that a species from a difficult planet might be exactly what the universe needed. 20 years after first contact, there were human colonies on 17 different worlds, most of them places other species had deemed uninhabitable. Earth's reputation evolved from that planet that defeated an invasion with winter to that species that can survive anywhere. Confederation military academies started including human survival instructors. Diplomatic services hired human negotiators who'd learned patience from waiting out blizzards. Engineering firms sought human consultants who'd solved problems by necessity rather than choice. Admiral Crix Natal, now retired and teaching military history at the Confederation's most prestigious academy, always started his course with the same lecture. Before we discuss strategy, tactics, or technology, let me tell you about the time I tried to invade Earth in December. Let me tell you how 47 warships, 12,000 trained soldiers, and centuries of military tradition were defeated by weather. Let me tell you why the greatest lesson I ever learned came from failure. And let me tell you why humanity, despite being technologically primitive when we met them, taught us something we should have known all along, that survival isn't about having the best weapons or the fastest ships. It's about understanding your environment, adapting to challenges, and having the wisdom to ask for help when you need it. Also, hot chocolate. Definitely bring hot chocolate. His students always laughed. Then he'd show them the historical footage of the rescue mission, the images of proud Carventhian warriors wrapped in thermal blankets like confused burritos, drinking soup and trying to understand why water could be solid. He'd show them humans suiting up in their casual cold weather gear, treating -20 degrees like a bit nippy, and explaining basic survival concepts to aliens who'd mastered faster-than-light travel but had never encountered mittens. This, he would say, is why we study history, not to celebrate victories, but to learn from mistakes. And I made a spectacular mistake. I assumed technological superiority meant actual superiority. I forgot to check basic environmental data. I led 12,000 people into a situation that nearly killed them, all because I was too proud to ask simple questions. Don't be like me. Be curious, be thorough, be humble, and always check what season it is. The Galactic Confederation thrived with Earth as a member. Human resilience combined with alien technology created innovations nobody had imagined. Cultural exchange enriched both sides. Trade flourished. And whenever someone proposed invading a planet without proper preparation, someone else would inevitably say, "Remember the Carventhian Armada," and everyone would take a moment to review their plans more carefully. The universe was vast, full of wonders and dangers, sophisticated civilizations and primitive species, advanced technology and simple solutions. Earth had taken its place among the stars, not through conquest or superiority, but through the humble act of surviving its own climate and being willing to help others survive theirs. And somewhere in the archives of the Confederation's historical database, preserved for posterity, was the original message that had started everything. We request immediate assistance. We promise not to conquer you if you help us not die. Sincerely, very cold aliens who made a huge mistake. Beneath it, someone had added a note in perfect English. Request granted, welcome to Earth. Next time, bring a jacket.